Hello and welcome back to Major League Talk Giants edition. Today is Thursday, April 20th, 2023. My name is Henry Self, and this is episode 7. We're going to be reviewing the series against the Miami Marlins. So let's go ahead and get started. This is our sixth series of the year. We ended our second road trip of the year going to Miami for a 3-game set. We lost the first 2 games, and so the series. Game 1, we lost 4-3. Game 2, we lost 4-2. Game 3, we would end up winning 5-2 in 11 innings. In game 1, the Giants started out up front, going up 3-0 after the top of the third, with an RBI by Ramos in the second, scoring Bart, and then a 2-run RBI by VR, scoring Ruff and Flores in the second. That would end the Giants scoring for the game. Webby had another rough start, posting another 4 earned run game. The Marlins were able to keep the Giants scoreless from the fourth through to the top of the ninth to get the win. Another blown lead by the Giants. Game 2, the Giants would again get out to an early lead, going up 2-0 in the first after a 2-run home run by Yaz. Again, this would be all the Giants would score. Wood was on the mound and he pitched only 2 1/3 innings. They were good innings, but he had to exit with a hamstring injury, fielding a Segura bunt and getting the out at first. Junis would relieve and allow Stallings to score on a birdie sac fly. This gave Wood 1 earned run. Junis would end up giving up 3 earned runs himself, which is all the Marlins would need. The final game was another 11-inning game, this time with the Giants on the winning end. Offense was relatively quiet for both teams in the game, with the 10th inning starting with both teams sitting at 1 run apiece. The Giants would end up tacking on 4 runs in the 11th off of 2 2-run home runs. Conforto would homer, which scored the automatic runner Estrada, and then after a VR double, Yaz would homer. The Marlins would score once in the bottom of the 11th, but Jelly would be able to earn 2 strikeouts and get a ground out to end the game. While we finally ended the losing streak, we still haven't ended the bad trends, which have been happening since the first series. Webb's struggles continue. Our starters for each game were Webb versus Luzardo, Wood versus Cabrera, and Cobb versus their Rogers. I believe his first name is Trevor. So let's go ahead and get into each game. Go ahead and preface this. I was only able to watch game 2 in its entirety and be disappointed that way. So for game 1, our starter on the mound was Webb, who had another very similar outing to the other 3 that he's had. He would pitch for 6 2/3 innings, which is his longest outing. He gave up 8 hits, 4 earned runs, and struck out 6. His season ERA is now to a 4.94. His frustration after giving up the 2-run homer was quite obvious and on full display, as after he saw the ball go over the wall, he immediately got off the mound screaming into his mitt or his glove, and I can only imagine that what he was saying is fuck, because that's exactly what it looked like. Let's go over the lineup. We had Estrada and left, Flores at first, Ruff DHing, and eventually Beatty would come in for him. Davis at third, VR at second, Yastrzemski at center, Bart catching, Ramos and right. Eventually Wade would come in to replace him and right, and Crawford at short. For the hits, Estrada was 0 for 4. Flores 3 for 4 with a run. Ruff was 0 for 1 with a strikeout and 2 walks, and he was also scored. Beatty went 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Davis was 0 for 4 with a strikeout. VR was 1 for 4 with a strikeout and 2 RBIs due to that double. Yastrzemski was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Bart was 2 for 4 with a strikeout. He was scored. Ramos was 1 for 2, and he got an RBI. Wade Jr., 0 for 0 with a walk. Crawford, struggles continue 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Overall, for the game, our batters were 7 for 32 with 9 strikeouts, 3 walks, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, no home runs. For the rest of our pitchers, Alexander was really the only, not really, he was the only reliever in this game. He was off to a great start in his first four appearances with the Giants. He had four scoreless appearances, but has since cooled off, giving up runs in his last four appearances, generally, except for this one. Actually, no, I need to go back and look at that. I might have read something wrong because he definitely did not give up a run in this game. Bad stat. Ignore that one. Anyway, he was our only reliever. He'd come in the seventh to get the final out and then pitch a clean eighth. He only gave up one hit. The defense would get all of his outs. As a team, we left 7 on base. We went 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Davis would ground into a double play, and we would turn 2 double plays, VR to Flores, and then Crawford to VR to Flores. Let's go ahead and look at our pitcher reports for this one. So, like I said, Logan Webb started. He'd end up throwing 105 total pitches, 4 four-seamers. That was his lowest. 38 sinkers, 35 sliders, and 28 changeups. As for the speed, they look all about where you would expect. 87.2 for his changeup, 92.6 for those four-seamers, 92.4 for the sinkers, and 83.7 for his sliders. Decent movement, about the same as we normally expect from Webb. And when you watch his pitching, when you watch the games that he's starting, his pitching's not bad. His locations are good. He just has had mistakes happen in the worst possible moments. Now, if that's just who Webb is now, or it's just a string of bad luck, one right after the other, we're just gonna have to watch the whole season to find out. And he did just sign his extension, so we got him for another 5 years. Good on his release point, all the same. A lot of his pitches, if they weren't in the strike zone, most of them were coming down and in toward a right-handed batter. He threw 41 of his pitches in the strike zone. 64 were out of the strike zone. Batters would swing at 49 of his pitches, a lot of them out of the strike zone, but they would take 56. Batters swung at all four of his four-seamers. And then when you break down the others, it looks like most of the ones that they took were his sinker. He threw a total of 33 balls. He would get 23 called strikes and 12 swinging strikes, 17 foul tips, 12 hits that resulted in outs, and then 8 base hits. 12 hits weren't hit hard. He got 14 ground balls total. He got 8 hard hits, the line drive, a fly ball, and then 6 grounders. So, like I said, his pitching has not been bad. It is the mistakes coming at the wrong time. Every pitcher is going to make mistakes at a certain point. His have just been coming really to the wrong batters at the wrong time. Like the home run that he gave up in this game, it was a 2-run shot, to Soler, and it was just a hanging slider, middle. Can't make a pitch like that to someone like Soler. But we'll see as the season goes on what happens with him and how adjustments are made. One phrase that I've heard in a lot of and one of the baseball podcasts that I've listened to a lot is that one thing that we don't know right now as we're watching the season as it progresses is we are watching a storyline unfold. At the end of the season, there's going to be some Cinderella story. There's going to be some massive comeback story or some massive downfall. And we don't know where it's coming from or who it's going to be as we're watching it live. We're just going with the ups and downs of the regular season. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of our season plays out, how Webb really plays out for the rest of the season, because he's meant to be our face. He's meant to be our number one. And I believe he has it in him. And he's shown that he has it in him to be an ace. So we'll see. Scott Alexander, like I said, came in 11 pitches total were thrown, 1 changeup, 2 sliders, and 8 sinkers. The sinkers are 91.8. The other two were below 85. Decent movement. The slider dropping a lot, but not too much. Lateral break, and then the sinkers and the changeup looks like going to. I imagine this is coming from the way that they had this set up. It's coming from the batter or the hitter, so a lot of movement to the the right of a batter. So if you're right-handed batter going out from you, like I said, this is a learning process. I'm learning how to read some of these myself. Release point, the same for all those. Strike zone, not too bad. It's only 11 pitches to really choose from here. 7 pitches inside the zone, 4 of them out of the zone. Batters would swing 8 of his pitches and take 3. He only pitched 1 ball, got 1 called strike, 3 swinging strikes, 1 foul tip, 4 hits for outs, and 1 base hit. So Alexander having, he had a really good start, then had one bad game. Let me see if I can correct that earlier stat. So to correct that earlier stat where I said he'd given up a run in each outing, that wasn't what it was. He gave up that 1 earned run against the Dodgers where he only pitched 1.1 innings. And so that made his ERA jump. But since then, he has had clean outings again. And that ERA has dropped from that 2.25 to 1.23 for Alexander. So far, he's only given up 5 hits and 1 earned run. Just really sucks that 1 earned run was a home run. But he's been doing well for us. It's good to see Scott Alexander in the pitching rotation. Behind the dish, calling the balls and strikes, we had Doug Eddings. His overall accuracy is 93%. Says he called 128 of 138 taken pitches correctly. And his overall consistency is 94%. 5 called balls inside the estimated dump zone and 3 called strikes outside. And overall favor plus 0.14 runs from Miami. Impactful missed calls. First one, top of the second, Luzardo to Yaz, 1 out, bases empty, 2-2 count. The ball is called a strike. Top of the 7th, Barnes to Flores, 1 out, runners on first and second, 1-0 count, ball is called a strike. And both of those were low. And then the third, bottom of the third, Webb to Fortes, no outs, runner on second. First pitch of the at bat, a strike is called a ball. And this is one that was at the top of the zone, just clipped the top of the zone. Called ball accuracy says 99%. 1 of 83 called balls were true strikes. Called strike accuracy 84%. 9 of 5 called strikes were true balls. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. Like I said, game 2, our starter was Wood. Unfortunately, he did have to come out of the game early. He only gave he was on 1 out into the third. He struck out 3 in this 2 1/3 innings and gave up a double to Stallings in the third, who had wound up moving to third on the sacrifice punt from Segura and then would score on a sac fly from Birdie. That sac fly was given up by Junis, like I said. So 2.1 innings, 3 strikeouts, 1 hit, 1 earned run. Our lineup, Wade Jr. was in left, Estrada was at second, Yaz was in right, Davis was at third, Flores at first, Crawford was at short, and then Ruff would come in to hit for him at some point. And then VR would DH, Sable was catching, but then Bart would come in for him, and Wisely was in center. Wade went 0 for 3 with a strikeout and a walk. Estrada was 1 for 4, and he was scored. Yaz was 1 for 3, and he got 2 RBIs off that home run. He also drew a walk. Davis was 3 for 4 with 1 strikeout. Flores was 2 for 4. Crawford was 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Ruff was, when he got to bat, was 0 for 1. VR was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. It was a rough day for him. Sable went 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, and then Bart would go 0 for 2 with 1 strikeout. Wisely was 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, and I kind of felt bad for Wisely because his family was there to see his first ever at bats in the big leagues, and it just wasn't going to get. Like I said, 2 strikeouts, and like I said, this was a game I got to watch, so I kept score. Yeah, flew out to right field, and then strikeout. Both of those were swinging. Oh well. Better luck next time, kid. You got a lot of time to go. The rest of our pitchers, like I said, Junis came on to relieve Woods. He would finish out the third, but not without, like I said, giving up that sacrifice fly to Birdie, allowing Stallings to score. Junis would pitch a total of 2 2/3 innings, giving up a 3-run home run to Jazz Chisholm Jr. after giving up a double to Soler and a single to Dela Cruz. The next batter reached on a catcher's interference call and stole second, but then Junis would get out of the inning with a strikeout and a ground out. Fifth inning looked almost just as bad, with Junis giving up 3 straight singles, but he'd get a double play to end the inning. His final line, like I said, 2 2/3, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 strikeout, 1 home run. Then we have Stripling, whose appearances are improving. His earned run totals from each game 4, 4, 2, and 0. And then his hits are 6, 4, 2, and 2 over those games. He'd come on in the 6th, pitched 2 1/3 innings, looking cleaner than his last outing. He struck out 3, gave up 2 hits, and allowed no runs. Taylor Rogers, whose last 3 outings have also been improvements, would come in for the last 2 outs of the 8th, getting a fielder's choice and then a strikeout. He left 6 on base, went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Estrada would successfully steal a base, and Yaz would get caught stealing. We turned 1 double play. Sable would earn an error on catcher's interference. And this was another one, like I said, we went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring. You look at the 4th, Davis hit a leadoff double, and he'd only managed to get over to third. And then you look at the 6th, Davis hit a single, and then Flores hit a single. Those were both 1-out singles, but then a ground out and a strikeout would end the ending for us. And then after that, we didn't get another base runner until the top of the 9th, when Flores hit a single, and that's when we subbed in Ruff for Crawford, and Ruff would fly out to left, and then 2 strikeouts ends the game for us. So we weren't without opportunities. We just did not take advantage of those opportunities to try and salvage that game. So let's go ahead and look at our pitcher reports. Alex Wood, short outing for him. Hopefully that injury does not sideline him for too long. Hamstring, though, we'll see what the team says. 33 pitches total from him. 18 sinkers, 12 sliders, 3 changeups. His changeups for 85, sinkers were 91.5, sliders for 82.5. Good movement, pretty much what you'd expect. That slider coming down and a little to the left as you're looking at it. The sinkers not coming down too much comparatively, but going out to the right as you're looking at it. Same with the changeup, coming down a little bit more though. Strike zone starts like up and in to a righty, and then comes down and out to a righty as far as where all of his pitches would land. He threw 18 inside the strike zone and 15 out. Batters would swing at 13 of his pitches and take 20. About an even distribution of changeup, sinker, slider between those two, taking and swinging. Through 12 balls, got 8 called strikes, 2 swinging strikes, 6 foul tips, 4 hits resulting in outs, and 1 base hit. Got 2 hard hits and 3 that were not. And then Junis would come in. He ended up throwing 47 pitches, 22 sinkers and sliders, and then 3 changeups. And his changeups were 85.7, his sinkers were 93.4, and his sliders were 83.5. The sinkers would come down a little bit and go to the left as you're looking, so come in at you as a righty, and the sliders would go down and out to a righty. Changeups would go down even further than his sinkers and start coming in to a righty as well. All are relatively the same release point, so that's good. He would throw 22 pitches in the strike zone, 25 out of the strike zone. Batters would swing at 22 of them. And they'd take 25. They swung at all of his changeups, all 3 of them. They'd get 16 balls, 9 called strikes, 3 swinging strikes, 7 foul tips, 5 hits resulting in outs, and 7 base hits. Hard hit versus not hard hit, evenly split, 6 and 6. And then we go to Ross Stripling, who ended up throwing 36 pitches, 11 sliders, 10 four-seam fastballs, 9 changeups, 4 sinkers, 2 knuckle curves. So he's got 5 pitches that he's choosing from. And they go all the way from about the mid 90s to the mid 80s, so, or mid 70s. So changeup 83.7, 4 seamers 92.2, sinkers 89.2, sliders 86.5, and those knuckle curves were down way below 80. As far as the lateral movement of all these pitches, not too crazy. It says here like 6 inches to one side or the other. The farthest out is like 12 inches. It looks like coming into a righty. And of course, that knuckle curve's got the most drop out of all those. Knuckle curve has a higher release point, it says on here. It's not grouped right with the other balls. He threw 12 pitches in the strike zone, 24 out of the strike zone. Batters would swing at 19 of his pitches and take 17. They swung at those knuckle curves. You'd get a ball on one of those knuckle curves and a called strike on the other. 5 called strikes total, 7 swinging strikes, 12 balls total, 6 foul tips, 4 hits resulting in outs, and 2 base hits. And 3 and 3 when you look at hard hit versus not hard hit. Then we have Taylor Rogers, who would be the last pitcher of the game. He only threw 10 pitches, 8 sweepers and 2 sinkers. Those sweepers coming in at 78.7. And a lot of movement on those sweepers, down and coming into a righty. Relatively same release point. He threw 6 pitches in the strike zone and 4 pitches out of the zone. Batters would take 5 and swing at 5. I'd get 3 balls, 2 called strikes, 1 swinging strike, 3 foul tips, and 1 hit for an out. Calling the balls and strikes behind the dish, that'd be Lance Barrett. Overall accuracy 97%, called 129 of 133 taking pitches correctly. Overall consistency 92%, 8 called balls inside the estimated zone, 2 called strikes outside of that estimated zone. Impactful missed calls, top 3. Bottom of the second, Wood to Soler, no outs, base is empty, 0-1 count, ball is called a strike. Second one, bottom of the 5th, Junis to Arias. 1 out, runner on first. First pitch of the at bat, strike is called a ball. And then bottom of the eighth, Stripling to Arise. No outs, base is empty. First pitch, ball is called a strike. Called ball accuracy, it says 98%. 2 of 89 called balls were true strikes. Called strike accuracy, 95%. 2 of 44 called strikes were true balls. So now we're going to move on to our last game, which really tested that bullpen. We had Cobb on the mound for us starting. He would allow 7 hits, but he would only allow 1 earned run, strike out 8, and walk only 1 over 5 innings. Not a bad start. Encouraging to see him stretch to 5. For the lineup, we had Estrada at short, Flores at first, Ruff at DH, then Conforto would come in, Davis at third, VR at second, Yaz in center, and then he'd move to right. Bart catching, Ramos in left, and then Wisely would come in his place and go to center. So that made Yastrzemski switch over. And then Wade Jr., who started in right and then would go to left. Estrada was 1 for 5 with a strikeout and a run. Flores was also 1 for 5 with a run. Ruff was 1 for 2 with a strikeout and a walk and an RBI. Conforto was 1 for 2 with a strikeout and a run. That's 2 RBIs on a home run. Davis was 1 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. VR was 1 for 5 with 2 strikeouts and a run. Yaz was 1 for 5 with a strikeout, a run, and 2 RBIs off that home run. Bart was 0 for 2 with a walk. Ramos was 0 for 4 with a strikeout and a walk. And then Wisely didn't hit. Wade Jr. was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Total 7 for 39, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks, 5 runs, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs. So he only got 7 hits in all 3 games. So ended up going 21 for 105. The bullpen really got worked in this game. Like I said, it would go to 11 innings, our 3rd extra inning games in 3 games. Excuse me, our 3rd extra innings game in 5 games. We used 6 pitchers out of the bullpen. First up was Brebbia. He pitched for 1 1/3, getting 2 strikeouts, allowing no hits or runs and walking none. Then Alexander, who pitched for an inning, getting a strikeout, allowing no hits or runs and walking no one. Tyler Rogers was next, pitching 1 1/3, giving up 2 hits and striking out 1, giving up no runs or walks. Duvall came in for the last out in the 9th, and he'd also pitched the 10th. He'd walk 2, strike out 2, and allow no hits or runs, and he would earn the win. I believe those 2 walks were also intentional walks. Jelly would come on in the 11th, getting only 1 out via the strikeout. He walked 1, gave up a hit and a run unearned. Taylor Rogers would come up to close the game and get a strikeout and a ground out while it's been in the Achilles heel on this trip and our first home stint. The bullpen managed to close out this game strongly, supported by the 2 11th inning 2-run shots from the offense. The Giants also intentionally walked the 2 straight batters in the 10th, Arias and Soler, which would prove to be of no consequence to Duvall, who struck out the next 2 batters to end that inning. We ultimately left 8 on base, went 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position. Yaz got a 2-out RBI. Yaz and Conforto hit home runs. Ruff would be picked off. We didn't ground into any double plays and didn't turn any double plays. We did have a bases loaded moment to add more runs in the game. However, Ramos would end up grounding out to short. Miami also would have a bases loaded situation that ended off an awesome defensive play by Davis at third, scooping the ball out of the dirt and making the out at first. So finally got an extra innings win. We'd end up winning that, like I said, 5-2. Let's look at the pitcher reports. Like I said, these are going to be lengthy. Alex Cobb started 92 pitches, 38 sinkers, 35 splitters, 13 knuckle curves, and 6 sliders. Almost 90 for those splitters. The knuckle curve 82.7, Sinkers sitting at 95, and the slider at 86.1. Good movement. Relatively same release point. Good spray across the strike zone. He would throw 43 in the strike zone and 49 out of the zone. Batters would swing at 41 of his pitches, taking 51. They mostly took the knuckle curve. They only swung on 2 of those. And then everything else is kind of an even distribution. 35 total balls, 16 called strikes, 15 swinging strikes. Most of those swinging strikes were on his splitter. 12 foul tips, and those were on his sinkers, sliders, and splitters. 7 hits for outs and 7 base hits. 6 of those base hits would come off sinkers and 1 on a splitter. 8 hard hits, end up getting 7 ground balls total, 4 fly balls, and 3 line drives. Brebbia was next, throwing only 16 pitches, an even split between 4-seamers and sliders. 4-seamers 95.5, slider 83.7. Movement is what you'd expect to see, relatively same release point. He would only get 5 pitches in the zone, and 11 would be out of the zone. Batters would swing at 7 and take 9. They mainly took his 4-seamer and swung at his slider. He'd throw 6 balls, get 3 called strikes, 3 swinging strikes, 2 foul tips, and 2 hits for outs. Next was Alexander, throwing 14 pitches, 12 sinkers, 2 sliders. Sinkers are 92. The release point right around the same. Stayed pretty much in the middle there when you're talking about like between the knees or above the knees and below the letters. He threw 10 pitches in the zone, 4 out of the zone. Batters would swing at 8 of those pitches and take 6. They took both of the sliders that he threw. I threw 4 balls, 1 called strike, three swinging strikes, 4 foul tips, and 2 hits for outs. And 1-1 hit, hard hit versus not hard hit. Next was Tyler Rogers, throwing 22 pitches, 15 sliders, 7 4-seamers. Funky man coming in at 83.3 for those 4-seam fastballs, 73.5 for those sliders. Doing good with the strike zone. 12 pitches in the zone, 10 out of the zone. And batters would swing at 10 of his pitches and take 12. They mainly took his sliders. He'd get 6 balls, get 6 called strikes, 3 swinging strikes, 2 foul tips, 3 hits for outs, and 2 base hits. Nothing was hit hard. Not a lot of people really can hit hard against him. Then Doval would come in for 17 pitches, 8 sinkers, 6 cutters, 3 sliders. That cutter averaging 100.6, his sinker 98.7, and his slider 89.4. Got a good release point. Kind of 8 pitches in the strike zone, 9 out of the zone. And those ones of the 8 in the zone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are right on the lines. Only 3 are like actually full on in the zone. Batters would swing at 9 of his pitches and take 8. 6 balls, 2 called strikes, 3 swinging strikes, 4 foul tips, and 2 hits for outs. Jelly would come in. He'd get 14 pitches off. He threw 8 knuckle curves and 6 sinkers. The knuckle curves coming in at 85.2. The sinkers at 94.7. They have relatively the same release point. The knuckle curve does not have a lot of lateral movement, just a lot of drop. You got 5 pitches in the strike zone, 9 out of the zone. Batter should swing at 4 of his pitches and take 10. Relatively even distribution between the two. You get 6 balls, 4 called strikes, 1 swing and strike, 2 foul tips, and 1 base hit. And then finally, the last guy for the game, Taylor Rogers threw 10 pitches, 8 sweepers, 2 sinkers. Once again, those sweepers coming in at 78.8. Same release point. You can only get 5 pitches in the zone, and 4 of those are on the line. One of them, the bottom, like one of them that came in at the top of the zone. The bottom of the ball is just touching that top line of the zone. Only one ball is actually right in the zone. 5 pitches were out of the strike zone. Batters would swing at 4 of his pitches and take 6. 3 balls, 3 called strikes, 1 swing and strike, 2 foul tips, and 1 hit for an out. Behind the dish, calling the balls and strikes, Charlie Ramos for this game. Overall accuracy, 93%. Overall consistency, 92%. Says he called 188 of 203 taken pitches correctly. Impactful missed calls. Top of the 4th, Soriano to Bart. 2 outs, runners on first and third, 1-2 count. A strike is called a ball. Bottom of the 11th, Jelly to Fortes. No outs, runner on second, 1-2 count. Ball is called a strike. Top of the 3rd, Rogers to Wade Jr. 1 out, bases empty, 2-2 count. Strike is called a ball. Called ball accuracy was 94%. Says he called 8 of 128 called balls for true strikes, and his called strike accuracy 91%. 7 of 75 called strikes for true balls. So those are the 3 games. This 3-game series puts us at 6-11. Not a fun start, but most of the other teams are also having not great starts. Let's be honest. Only one team in the NL West has a winning record right now, and that's Arizona. We're 4th in the West, ahead of only Colorado, who has a record of 5-14. We managed to snap our 5-game losing streak. We managed to earn a win in extra innings game. Our batting lineups are now 144 for 601. With 28 home runs, that's still second in the NL. 188 strikeouts. Yeah, we're leading the league. We've drawn 62 walks. That's 9th in the NL. We've stolen 8 bases, which is 13th in the NL, and been caught stealing twice, which is 2nd in the NL. We're slashing 240, 322, and 421 as an entire team, which all of those are a drop from the last episode. We have an OPS of 743, which is also obviously a drop. And that's all good for 11th, 10th, 7th, and 7th, respectively, in the NL. The pitching staff has a combined ERA of 4.13, giving up 149 hits and being credited with 70 earned runs, 85 total runs. Pitchers have given up 23 home runs, which is 12th in the NL. They have walked 46, which is good for 2nd in the NL. They struck out in 163, which is 5th. They are 4th in earned runs and 3rd in hits and 6th in ERA. The pitching staff's FIP is 4.17 and the WHIP is 1.277. Taylor Rogers still has the highest WHIP, but it's dropped from a solid 3 to a 2.357, and his FIP is also still the highest, but it has dropped from 15.97 to 12.11. Hits per 9 now goes to Jacob Junis at 12.8. So let's look at some overall stats from Fangraphs. comparing us to the rest of the league. Batting, just overall batting, we are ranked 11th in the league, which isn't terrible. I mean, the only teams ahead of us are, you got Tampa at 1, Atlanta, then St. Louis, which is kind of odd, LA, Dodgers, the Cubs, the Mets, the Astros, Pirates, Brewers, and Orioles. So could be worse, but we can be better. If you want to look at some of these standard batting statistics, like I said, for strikeouts, we are leading the league at 188. Philadelphia is right behind us at 183. And then the Brewers at 181. And the Dodgers are fourth with 179. So, and Atlanta, 177. So you look at the 4 teams behind us: Philly, Milwaukee, Dodgers, Atlanta. You got Atlanta, that Philly, Dodgers, and Atlanta were all in the playoffs last year. Phillies were in the World Series. The Dodgers have had 100 wins or more for like 5 out of the past 10 seasons or something like that. So, and then San Diego is also in the top 10 with 174. The team with the least amount of strikeouts, the Nationals at 121, but right above them are the Mets at 131. We're about to play them for a 4-game set, and Arizona at 141. So leading the league in strikeouts, not fun. And as far as runs, the Rays obviously number 1 at 133. We are 21st with only 79. So not fun to sit there. Home runs, we are 3rd in the league overall, 2nd in the NL. The Rays have the most at 42. Dodgers have 33, and we've got 28. The 2 teams right behind us, Atlanta and the Yankees, both have 27. So striking out a lot, but getting a lot of home runs too. It'd be nice if they'd start coming a bit more frequently. And as far as average goes, we're 18th in the league at 240. But right around us, 3 teams above us: Boston at 240, Baltimore 249, Miami at 249. 3 below us: Angels at 239, Cincinnati at 239, Dodgers at 232. Top teams are the Rays, the Cubs, and the Phillies. So, and then looking at pitching, overall pitching, we're 20th. The top 3 are Tampa, Seattle, and the Yankees. As far as strikeouts per 9, we're 5th at 9.61 strikeouts per 9. Minnesota's first at 10.36, then the White Sox at 10.24, and then the Yankees at 9.95, and the Cubs at 9.73. Washington's dead last, followed by Oakland and Detroit. So kind of teams you expect to be down there as far as how they would get their outs. Walks per 9. We are 27th in walks per 9 with 2.71. Excuse me. That's the other way around. I hate it when sites do this. That's better. We're 4th, 2.71. LA is at the top, 2.32. Minnesota 2.35, Cleveland 2.54, we're 2.71. So striking out, good. Our walks are good. Home runs per 9, 9th, 1.36. But that's if you're sorting it from the most to the least. You go in the other way, least to the most, 22nd. And then fielding, I'm just going to do the basic advanced, excuse me, the just overall based on their advanced statistics. They have us listed at 9th for fielding. So our defense has improved from last year, where we were pretty much dead last for most of the year, if not all of the year. So improved defense. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to, Davis over there at third. First hasn't been too much of a problem. It would be nice if, Crawford can kind of get out of whatever he's feeling right now. Like I said, those back-to-back errors he had the other day really hurt us, but ultimately it's not terrible. So, like I said, we got to try and find silver linings in these rough times. And as far as our pitching staff, we're striking out. We just need to strike out a little bit more. We're not issuing too many walks as a whole. And really, our bullpen just needs to be more consistent, and our batters need to be more consistent with when they're actually getting runs. We got a rough stretch here. We got 4 against the Mets. We got 4 against St. Louis, and then we're going to Mexico City for 2 against the Padres. I'd honestly be happy coming out of that stretch 500. I know we'd rather, like, if we went 500 in that stretch, so that'd put us at 11 and 16. I know that as well as everybody else, I'd rather be above 500. So, but reasonable expectation 500. 4 games against the Mets coming up for the weekend. I'll see you after that, and then we'll be gearing up for 4 against the Cardinals. Peace.